Deploying.
Scan it first. This thing's like his legs are glowing. I think it's the carbonite.
The regular rules don't apply to video game bosses. Whether you're talking about their size, their strength, their speed, or anything in between, they always seem to have a little extra, something that most other enemies in the game just don't have access to. Which makes sense, they're bosses after all. Often that special something ends up taking a very physical form, right there in the boss's arsenal, as a special weapon that can do some truly destructive things, and often you get lucky enough to actually be able to get your hands on that weapon, or item, or whatever else you want to call it, either temporarily or permanently. Here, we're going to talk about a few such weapons that you get from bosses in video games. Railgun. Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots.
Everything all right, Snake?
I was having that dream again.
Railguns have been prominent in Metal Gear Solid games on more than one occasion, and famously in Metal Gear Solid 4, Old Snake headed back to the iconic island to get his hands on the railgun that used to be mounted on Metal Gear Rex. Of course, that didn't just happen in a flash. To get his hands on the weapon, Snake had to fight and defeat Crying Wolf, the expert sniper of the Beauty and the Beast unit. Once that fight is done though, you can finally get your hands on the weapon, and boy is it worth it. It packs a massive punch, and every shot that it fires has that ridiculous oomph you'd want it to have. Using the railgun to take down an entire swarm of gecko not long after first acquiring the weapon is one of the best ways to show off its power. Medusa's Gaze, God of War. Kratos has often brutally murdered his enemies and then used their weapons to his advantage throughout the God of War franchise, but for the purposes of this feature, we're going to go with one of the first and one of the most memorable instances of this happening. Medusa in the original God of War wasn't exactly a huge boss fight, certainly not in the way something like the Hydra was, for instance. But she was very much a set-piece enemy, and once you've got your hands on her tentacled head and ripped it right off, you got her powers for yourself. Being able to turn her head in an enemy's direction and turn them to stone. That's never not useful throughout the rest of the game, and there's just something immensely satisfying about turning enemies into stone and then smashing them into pieces. Chaos Blade, Dark Souls. Obviously we're going to include From Software games in this list, and not just one of them. The Souls franchise has a well-documented history with boss weapons, rewarding players who defeat certain bosses with special extra powerful weapons to use for themselves. Players who defeat certain bosses with special extra powerful weapons. In the original Dark Souls, one of those is the Chaos Blade. To get your hands on it, you need to have defeated the horrifying half-spider, half-human demonic witch in Blighttown known as Chaos Witch Kulog. And though the fight itself is appropriately brutal, at least the rewards feel justified. Its health-leeching properties make it one of the game's trickier weapons, but if paired with the right build and the correct usage of the Chaos mechanic, its deadly attack stats can be absolutely devastating. HOLLOWSLAYER GREATSWORD, Dark Souls. In keeping with the Souls series tradition of rewarding players who seek out and defeat optional bosses with some sick rewards, Dark Souls 3 hides in the Undead Settlement. The boss known as Curse-Rotted Greatwood. While that boss fight itself isn't exactly among the most memorable encounters in the game, it does eventually allow you to get your hands on the HOLLOWSLAYER Greatsword, which is one of the most useful weapons in the game depending on your build of course. In particular, dexterity-focused characters will find the HOLLOWSLAYER Greatsword immensely useful, especially thanks to its affinity to hyper armor, while the weapon can also be incredibly handy against hollow enemies and even some bosses, as the name suggests. STARSCOURGE Greatsword. There's little doubt in anyone's minds that STARSCOURGE Radon is a challenging boss fight in the game. Unsurprisingly, the reward you ultimately get for killing Radon is good as well. The STARSCOURGE Greatsword is a massive weapon, and its damage output does justice to that size. An arsenal of visceral attacks, ridiculous damage output, AoE damage, you name it, the weapon has it. Disc Launcher, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Forbidden West. Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West give players many opportunities to use enemy machines' own weapons against them, especially if it's one of the larger and deadlier machines you're taking in. In that group, nothing beats the mighty Thunderjaw. Thunderjaws are, of course, equipped with a number of deadly weapons, but their disc launchers are probably the deadliest of the lot. One of the best and most effective ways of taking one of these monstrosities down is shooting off their disc launcher and then using it to dish out tons of damage of your own. These are only temporary weapons, of course, but it's hard not to be impressed by their awesome power every time you get your hands on one. Any legendary Pokemon, any Pokemon game. Okay, we're cheating a little bit here, but it just makes too much sense to include legendary Pokemon in a feature such as this one as well. The catch here is that the legendary Pokemon in question is both the boss that you have to defeat, as well as the weapon you get from defeating that boss. And sure, if you're purely focused on competitive PvP gameplay, you're probably not going to be using legendary Pokemon much. But if you just want to roam about the game's world by yourself, take on trainers and wild Pokemon, and absolutely decimate everything in your path with a newly captured legendary, well, that can be a ton of fun, to put it mildly. Using a Lugia's Aeroblast on a Metapod might seem a tad excessive, but it can also be weirdly enjoyable. So, what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and share them in the comments below. And if you like the video, please subscribe to the channel and enable all notifications by clicking on the bell icon to get updates on new videos. We upload every day and would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.